And we're back in Lethbridge, Alberta for the continuation of the pre-trial of the Coutts 2 after it was adjourned, when the other two took a plea deal that had the conspiracy to commit murder and police charges withdrawn. Tony Oleynik and Chris Carbert are the two that remain behind bars under pre-trial custody. Their detention over 730 days without a conviction had many worried about the state of justice in this country. Their charges stem from anti-COVID mandates protests that they participated in Coutts, Alberta, which marked the second-year anniversary just a few weeks ago. I'm here to provide updates and interviews as the week progresses. Please consider donating at mediabezirgan.com/donate to keep me on the road so that I can bring you the news that matters. The news that matters. Now, as mentioned before, two of the men, Jerry Morin and Chris Lysak, took a plea deal last week. This was an unexpected development that took many by surprise. Here's Lysak's friend, Marco, from Fort Macleod, commenting on the surprise development after he witnessed the hearing.
There is a miscarriage of justice here. To hold men, to hold Canadians pre-trial for this length of time on a charge such as a restricted firearm or a weapons trafficking, that's unheard of. And I feel there has been public pressure put on public and possibly even pressure from superiors and authorities on the Crown and Stephen Johnson in this particular case, and that this was a tactic on their part to essentially justify their behavior. And because at this point we now have guilty pleas, and a lot of people will say, see, I told you so. 723 days pre-trial is a travesty of justice in Canada, and it has to be treated as such, and there has to be a full inquiry into these prosecutions.
Additionally, if anyone is interested in looking at what the two accused pled guilty to, can click the link in the comment section. But it's also worth mentioning that their 720-plus day ordeal ended few days after American journalist Tucker Carlson came to Alberta and asked Premier Daniel Smith about their situation, followed by a large convoy that went down to Coutts, Alberta to mark the anniversary of the blockade that marked the beginning of the end of COVID mandates 2 years ago. But just like the pre-trial hearings, that convoy did not receive any attention from politically motivated media, which caught the attention of the world-renowned commentator and actor Russell Brand. Check it out.
That's the sweet sound of freedom, baby. You'll notice that's on Media Bezirgan because no other media will report on it. Hello there, let's just leave that to Media Bezirgan to report on that. You know, like, remember, when they're introducing their online censorship law in Canada, what they said was, it's so we can support Canadian content. That's what we're doing it for. Well, a mass movement of your people opposing the government should be the very kind of story you're covering. It shouldn't be left to independent media, but it is left to independent media because our independent movement is about your independent thought, my independent thought, our right to disagree with one another in the chat, but also the duty we have to find now alliances and form alliances and oppose this kind of corruption, even if it takes the form, in the case of this trucker protest, of quite a lot of honking.
Although the timing of the release of the two accused raises questions, the more serious question is if the conspiracy to commit murder on RCMP charges would be withdrawn just like that. Did the Crown had a case to hold the man in remand for that long to begin with? And of course, the other question is, what will happen to the rest of the two that are facing the judge today? How will the plea deal affect their case? That's what I'm here to learn. Given that there's a publication ban for this trial, there's not much I can report on what's going on inside of the courtroom. But I would like to bring your attention to another court hearing that took place in this very courthouse only 3 weeks ago, where a trucker who participated in the same protest in Coutts, Alberta 2 years ago, James Savy, was sentenced to 10 months in prison for dangerous driving.
Why would I plead guilty to something I never did?
Savy, who has no prior criminal record, ran a pylon at the RCMP checkpoint that left an officer in tears. This is the footage few minutes after Savy had passed with his truck. On the ground we can see a pylon crushed and the lone police officer whose victim statement caused laughter in the public gallery of the courtroom as it was read.
James was bringing humanitarian aid. He was delivering firewood. That's why they made an example of him.
Savary was convicted by a jury of his peers, but he maintains his innocence and says that he will appeal the decision that was rendered. Having not dealt with the courts before, Savary says he chose an incompetent lawyer. His new lawyer asked for house arrest, but the sentencing judge, while acknowledging that Savary did not attempt to run the officer over, said that he was satisfied with Savary having political motivations when he sped up towards the officer, and gave 10 months in prison to denounce intimidation and send a message to the rest of the like-minded individuals. Here are the reactions of that decision after that decision was rendered that day.
We can expect this in a liberal appointed judge system. We don't have a judicial system anymore. So I didn't expect quite this harsh. You know, listening to all the cases he brought up to attention, I thought, okay, maybe 6 months and some house arrest. But yeah, they threw the book at him. They got to make an example here. And he's obviously, got pressure from above to make examples here and keep this pressure on us so that this stuff doesn't continue. It's disappointing for him and his family.
I'll be around to bring you more coverage as the day progresses, but to stay on top of this story requires lots of resources that I alone cannot manage. If you are satisfied with the quality of my work, please consider donating at mediabezirgan.com/donate. Thank you.